Hello, everyone. My guest today is Sahil Lavingia. He is the founder and CEO of Gumroad, a service that helps creators get paid for their work. They sent over $200 million to creators. Before starting Gumroad, he was the second employee of Pinterest. All right, Sahil, you ready to take us to the top?
Yes, let's do it.
So to talk to you real first, you've been very public online about kind of the ups and downs of Gumroad, and we'll get into that in a second. But first, I was recently on many of the cable networks defending Lambda School as I think the future of higher education. And I also then, through some research, realized you guys basically switched spots, you and Austin. You know, he was in San Francisco, went to San Francisco. You were in San Francisco, went to Utah. He sold his first book on Gumroad and then built a VC-backed company, Lambda School. You did the opposite, which is Kleiner asked to be, or Casey, asked to be bought out by $1. You got all your kind of equity back. So I guess my first question is, what has allowed you to, like, from a financial perspective, to kind of breath all the ups and downs you've taken? Did you get a bit of a cash payout from Pinterest that allowed you to like smooth out this ride, or were you truly really stressed about food on the table?
I wish. I left Pinterest a few months before my cliff, so that was a sort of financial decision that I should not have made. But no, I basically had nothing.
So you left before the 1 year cliff, not the 4 year full vest.
Yeah, the 1 year cliff. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, when Gumroad hit rock bottom, I think probably the amount of money in the bank account on my end and on Gumroad's end was, less than $100,000 or something like that.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about the story. So you launched the company in what year?
In 2011.
Okay, 2011. And then you do something which you kind of casually mention in your Medium article, where you kind of give the history of the company, which was you got 52,000 essentially views very quickly after you built the product over a weekend via a Hacker News post. Was that truly just an accident, or did you do anything strategically with the Hacker News post? Did you seed it to like make sure it took off?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to seed it. So, a few months before that, I had moved to Silicon Valley. And so every weekend, I was working, at Pinterest Monday through Friday. And then every weekend I would just network with people I'd met from Hacker News. So I built sort of a group of people that I, knew. And so, something that basically everybody does in the Valley is when you put something on Hacker News, you sort of ping all your friends, right? And you're like, hey, I just submitted this thing. Could you upvote it? And everyone does that, or should be doing that, because that's how you get to the top of the homepage. And then, after that point, it's up to the sort of the free market to decide if what you're doing is interesting enough. But to get the first 4, 5, 10 people to upvote it, yeah, totally manual process. It's something I still do today. I mean, when I wrote that post that sort of dictates the history of Gumroad, I had a friend who's a Y Combinator founder submitted to Hacker News, and then I pinged a bunch of people to upvote. And it got like 2,000 upvotes. So I think it would have probably done okay without that initial boost, but sort of just to secure the chances of that happening, it just makes sense to spend 5-10 minutes
seeding.
Seeding, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so that first post back on April 4th, 2011, the title on Hacker News was My Weekend Project, Gumroad. And that was basically it. You got 396 kind of upvotes, 202 comments. Did that drive the majority of the 52,000 views back to the website that week?
Yeah, I mean, that was probably 90+% of the traffic was from Hacker News.
Interesting. And then long tail today, when you look at your Google Analytics, what does Hacker News drive pretty consistently on a daily basis when you're not launching a new article on it?
I mean, almost nothing.
Oh, really? So there was no flat line. It went right down to zero, spike in zero.
Yeah, totally. And pretty quickly too. I mean, probably a month in, it was probably driving, maybe a few hundred people a day. So it drops, things get cycled fast, right? So there's always a new hot, sexy, shiny new object that people want to talk about.
Yep. So you launched 2011, you build the company up to, take us up to 2014 before kind of the changes happened. So what were your kind of key metrics going up to that point? What were you focused on, and how much had you raised?
Yeah. So we'd raised, at that point, $8 million, $8 million from Kleiner Perkins led the Series A, Max Levchin, Naval Ravikant, bunch of sort of Silicon Valley angels and VCs. We had grown the team to 25 people at our peak, including interns. And we were processing around $2.5 million a month for creators, growing roughly 80 to 100% year over year.
Yeah, in terms of GMV kind of through the platform.
Yeah, exactly.
And then your revenue model, how do you make money?
So we take, before the layoffs, we actually transitioned to a new model, but before the layoffs, we basically took a flat 5%. Okay. Yeah, that was, So roughly, I mean, it ended up with credit card processing fees, et cetera, around 7%. So if we were processing 2.5, we were making around, a little over $100,000 a month.
Yeah, you 7% would be 175, and then if you keep in 5%, it's like 125 or something like that a month. Burning a ton. You put your expenses all in the article. I mean, you were burning, I think, net burn like negative 390 grand or something on those months, right?
Yeah, $351,000 a month.
Yeah. Okay.
Was our highest month.
So what happened? Here's what surprised me about what you put out online in terms of your storyline. You kind of put this to your team when you still had what many would believe is a long runway left, 18 months. Most people wait until like 4 or like 1 month and they're like, we don't have payroll tomorrow. What gave you the instinct at 18 months to basically say, hey team, we're in trouble, go all in or leave the company now for security? Everyone obviously stayed and hustled, but why 18 months?
Yeah, I mean, I think people say, the sort of the traditional time frame in Silicon Valley is when you have 18 months left of runway, you need to go start raising money. And to do that, I just could not. I honestly, I still don't really understand how founders, and I have plenty of founder friends that say raise money in private, like don't tell the team, because if things don't go well, you don't want them to start freaking out. And I just don't know how to do that, honestly, because I don't understand how you can be out of the office for such long periods of time. Raising money is not an easy thing to do. It requires a lot of in-person meetings and follow-ups, and so I don't think for me it was, I don't think I could have done it strategically in any other way, where I had to tell the team, I had to sort of get everybody on the same page on where we're at as a company, because it would be such a difference from how we communicated within the company on every other thing that we did.
Yep. So 2014, you end up laying off 75% of your workforce down to call it 4 or 5 people. And then, a year later, you end up basically flipping the company to burning $350,000 in cash to essentially like 120-ish top line, all the way down to the point where you are essentially cash flow positive to the tune of about 10 grand a month. What was the hardest part of that transition? Was it, or actually the most unexpected part? Letting the team go is obviously hard, but what was the most unexpected part?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you really sort of come face to face with is this thing that you've built valuable to people, because so much of a venture-backed company is spending money to grow, right? And so when that goes away, when you have some software product out in the world, you're doing no sales, no marketing, no advertising. Really, frankly, very little support even to sustain the product. It was just me, once a week going through our support backlog and fixing bugs. And fighting fires when they came up. You just look at the numbers and you're like, this is the value of this thing. Like, if it's going to grow, it's because people are using it, finding value in it, telling their friends, etc. And it did. I mean, it definitely was not growing nearly as fast as it was. Prior, we were doubling every year. That year after the layoffs, we were basically grew 5 to 10%. But then the year after that, 15%. The year after that, 25%. And this year so far, we're up over 40% year over year. And so I think really what I saw, I think was a return to normalcy, and to, like, if we had never raised money, this is roughly how we would have grown, a very sort of slow compounded growth rate. Certainly nothing to complain about with 40% year over year, but that's 8 years into building this SaaS product.
Most people do not have the luxury of an investor sending them, I imagine, a cold email right after the partner who led the round leaves saying, we want to buy you out for $1. Now, founders can actually engineer this if they understand how VC firms think, by helping them, essentially giving them losses, which helps them with their LP base, right? So tell that story in terms of if founders want to intentionally make that happen and convince their VCs to essentially take their position out for like $1.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, to take a loss is to you have a fund, you have a bunch of different investments, and at the end of the year, you let's say you've made $100 million. You have all of these investments that are technically still going, right? They could be wins, they could be losses, and so you can basically go to a venture fund that has had a really great year and say, hey, look, like we're basically dead. We might return you 30% of your investment 3 or 4 years from now, or you can just write off this investment today, put it on your taxes as a loss, and then also clean up the books. You don't have to think about it ever again.
No board seat, no D&O insurance, no risk. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you can save money in a lot of these different facets, and I think that was the other thing about Kleiner specifically is they were going through an internal reorg, and so it was a way for them to sort of just I think clean house in general. And so if you can really know where your VCs are in terms of when they invest in your company, is it getting close to the end of the fund? Are they having a great year or not? Are they having internal drama that they're going through, and just know, it's just like knowing your customer, right? If you have a relationship with somebody, and you can give them an out, I think they might take it.
So how much did Kleiner put in of the 8 million?
They put in 7.
So they put in 7. So for them, it's a $7 million write-off on, the hundreds of millions they potentially earned that year, right? It juices their IRR for their LPs a little bit. You then, though, I imagine what was the liquidation preference on the term sheet? 1 or 2x?
So with Kleiner, actually, we raised 9 total because we did this 7, which was at a 1x. And then we raised another $2 million bridge round, and that was at a 4x.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Okay. So basically, when you look at what you'd have to sell for just to get past the investors before the waterfall hits the common holders, your early employees, you're having to sell for at least $16 million, 4 times 2 plus 7.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there was a little bit more money in the bridge. So it ended up being around, $17.5 million or something like that.
So once Kleiner is out, those liquidation preferences disappear, and now you could sell the company at what, 2 or 3 million and have a pretty good, darn good outcome for most people.
Correct. Yeah, I think our preferences at this point, we've also bought back a few other folks, and so now our preferences are a little under 2 million. So yeah, we could sell the company for 2.5, and I could make $1 million or something.
So how much of the original 9 in the company is still in it, investors who didn't sell?
It's around $1.9 million.
Okay, about 2-ish million. Okay,
so it's mostly the seed investors that were, the 1.1, and then around $800,000 worth of pro rata that they put into the Series A.
800 pro rata to keep their percentages, their kind of central ratchet clause. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, interesting. So you do that. All through this time, how are you generating revenue for yourself? I mean, Austin said you invested in Lambda School, so you had some play money. How'd you, build wealth while your company was essentially struggling?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly wish I would have done it differently. I wish I would have done things like investing in companies like Lambda School a lot more. But I basically paid myself at the beginning of the company. I paid myself $60,000 a year, which in San Francisco was basically making no money. And then I increased my salary. Basically, the way I thought about it was my salary is going to be the salary of the lowest person in the company. So at some point it was $95,000 a year, and now it's $120,000 a year. So it's basically moving to Provo, making $120,000 a year gives me a little bit of runway. And then the other thing that is the reason I was able to invest in Lambda is that I invested in a company called HelloSign that ended up selling to Dropbox for $230, and I made around a 16 or 17x.
It's Joseph, right?
Yeah, Joseph Walla, awesome guy.
What was your return on that? Sorry,
it was around 17x.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So that gave me. I mean, honestly, that single investment was, has given me more cash in the bank than Gumroad to date.
That's interesting. Okay, so fast forward now to today. You change. First off, how did you change your business model? How do you make money now today after the 2014 pivot?
So what we did is we added a premium tier where you can we sort of forked our 5%, and we said you can either pay us $10 a month or more, and the transaction fee is going to be 3.5%, which is closer to what you pay a credit card company, or it's still the same model, but you pay 8.5%. And then there's no fixed fee. And the reason we did that was basically we were having these incredibly spiky months where when you're taking 5%, if your creator's having a phenomenal month, someone launches a product and makes $2 million, it's great for you, but often that doesn't happen. You're super seasonal, et cetera. And we needed to make sure that when we were, sort of post layoffs, that we had a base of revenue every single month, regardless of that. And so that's why we launched the premium SaaS offering.
Yep. Okay. So if you look at last month, how many creators are paying you $10 a month?
Around 3,800.
Okay, 3,800. So there's essentially $38,000 right there in kind of pure SaaS revenue, and add back on then on top of that. So I guess maybe the right question is, how much transaction volume did you process last month?
Yeah, so last month we processed a little under $6 million.
Okay, and when you look at the weighted average between the 3.5 up to the 8%, what was the effective weighted average that you took on the 6 million?
It was around the math. I can do the math right now.
Yeah, take your time.
It was 7%.
Okay, so basically on the 6 million processed, you took essentially $420,000 out of that. Now you have credit card processing fees and things like that. So what was total recurring revenue last month, transaction and flat fees?
It was 150,000 in gross profit.
150. Okay, so again, 38 of that is a flat $10 fee. The rest, called 110 grand, is really coming from that 7% on the 6 million. Is this the right model? Are you going to change again in the next month, or you feel like this is the right one?
I think it's the right one for now, mostly because it works well enough, and revisiting pricing is always a little bit scary, and you have no idea who you're going to piss off. But almost definitely at some point we will revisit it, and mostly to simplify it. I think people get confused. I have to explain the 3.5, the 8.5, and so if we can simplify that, we will.
Yep. So just to round out your numbers, you're so transparent on Twitter. I encourage everyone, you go follow Sahil. It's at SHL. But in 2019, he put up volume processed 5.8 million, revenue 404K, gross profit $152,000. More importantly, again, your mission, it sounds like, is really for creators. So I'll let you share these numbers, right? How many creators made over 10 grand?
Yeah, 81 creators made over $10,000. 789 creators made over $1,000, and then a little under 10,000 creators made something. It made at least $1.
I love that. So you have, since you have 3,800 paying that flat fee of 10, some portion of them are essentially not active. What kinds of things are you building? Put on your UX hat for a second. What kinds of things are you building into the product, lifecycle, emails, et cetera, to get those kind of dormant paying customers reactivated so they can start making money doing their passion or their hobbies?
Yeah, so I think one of the big things that we realized is we were so launch heavy, and that's great for the people that make over $10,000 a month. They're really thinking about this like a business, but there are a lot of sort of hobbyists, I guess, that sign up to Gumroad and then they launch a product, and then they just never do anything again. They don't think about things like lifecycle emails, et cetera. And one of the interesting things about Gumroad is everything we do kind of mirrors what we want creators to do too. So if we're doing lifecycle emails, we should probably be training our creators to do lifecycle emails for their own customers. And so that's kind of a nice meta thing that happens. But basically what we realize is there's a big opportunity in terms of discovery, where if you put your stuff on Gumroad once, people, what they want is they want AdSense. They want to create a website, and then basically for the rest of their life, they get some money. It doesn't really matter how large or small it is, because if they get some money in the bank, they're happy. They don't have to do anything for that. And so that's one of the big investments that we've started to make this year. We've doubled already from $100,000 a month in discovery, new volume to creators, to $200,000 a month. And we hope to get to $1 million in the next couple of years a month. And then we take a higher transaction fee of that. So
wait, hold on. Aren't you at 6 million already monthly?
Yeah, so that's $200,000 a month of GMV, extra margin, extra volume.
Sorry, I thought you're already processing about 6 million a month. Isn't that all going to creators?
Yes, yeah, it is. So this is just from that one feature of discovery, like recommendation.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, so it's an extra 3 to 4% of new volume.
Got it.
That's coming from this new set of features. Yeah,
it's essentially a marketplace. It's like your own Etsy.
Exactly, it's our own Etsy, and the hope there is that long term, you can put your stuff on Gumroad and continuously make long tail revenue basically for the rest of your life. If we can continue to build demand on the consumer side, which is something we've never done before. We've always been a tool for creators to monetize their existing audience. But we think there's a big opportunity in, hey, you made $100,000. If we can give you an extra $5,000, an extra $10,000 because of recommendations, because of emails that we automate for you, because of cross-selling, et cetera, we think that can be a pretty great opportunity.
It sounds like you and Nathan Barry need to get together and merge or something. You guys talk the exact same way.
Oh yeah, do we? That's good.
Yeah, you connected with him?
Yeah. He was one of our first really big success stories, actually.
Well, he's like Austin. I mean, he launched his whole business. He launched ConvertKit off selling ebooks.
Exactly.
Well, your business model should have been take 2% of every business step. All right.
0% transaction fee if we get 5% of your company.
There you go. All right, so let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
I really love Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yep. Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
Austin from Lambda is amazing. I think the way that he thinks about social media and Twitter to sort of build a business almost single-handedly, it feels like, is pretty stellar.
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building your company?
I've really been investing in Notion. That's been where we've been moving all of our product management, all our wikis, all our roadmap stuff is all Notion now.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
7.5. And that's the thing I will never
compromise.
Yeah, never change. Yeah, never compromise.
And what's your situation? Married, single, kids?
I have a fiance. We're getting married in December.
Oh, exciting. Okay, so no kids.
No kids.
And how old are you?
I'm 26.
26 today. Great. Take us back to your 20-year-old self. What do you wish he knew?
Honestly, I think I wish I just focused on. I think I did the right things. Honestly, I just think I spent so much time second guessing myself, and I wish I had just been more committed to the vision instead of constantly, being like, "Am I doing the right thing?" It turns out, I think if you care about what you're building and the customer base that you're building for, like, you're probably good. You're probably not embezzling money on the side.
Guys, Gumroad.com has paid over $200 million out to creators and launched many big brands we know today, like Lambda School and ConvertKit. But it was all very shaky in 2014 when they were net burn was over $300,000 per month. He had to lay off essentially 75% of his staff back down to 4 or 5 people, bought out investors. Now today, the company is growing nicely, processing $6 million in revenue, all to creators every single month. And they essentially take anywhere between 3 and 8% on that. And then some folks, about 3,800 creators, pay a flat fee on addition to call it 3.5%, about $10 per month. So gross revenue today, about $152,000 per month as he looks to continue to scale. Sahil, thank you for taking us to the top.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.